Welcome back to Pride in Politics. We want to start the episode off by wishing everybody a happy Thanksgiving. We hope you enjoyed your time back at home with your family and your friends and spending time reminiscing on what you're thankful for. Today's episode is a special episode in which we cover the grounds of international relations. We sit down with distinguished faculty and professor here at Widener University, who is up for tenure, and we wish him good luck, Dr. Jeremy Backstrom, who has won the Lingback Distinguished Teaching Award here at Widener. And we have a wide-ranging conversation talking about everything from the evolution of American foreign policy to the current policy today, how the United States has approached different issues such as terrorism and becoming a global superpower. And as always, I'm going to bring on our international relations correspondent, Lola, from WooCast. Lola, thank you for joining me. As always, my co-producer. Lola, I think it's awesome, the conversation we had with Dr. Backstrom, but I think it's really important that our viewers get a real understanding of what we're talking about. So if you could go ahead and just give us a little international relations crash course on what we're going to talk about today.
Of course. So I think this episode is very fun and insightful, but there are a lot of, I think, more difficult and unknown topics that we talk about. And I think particularly we do mention a lot with tariffs. And I think it's important that we go over it, kind of just like dumb it down a little bit, because it is a very, kind of difficult topic to understand. And I think a lot of like our normal viewers sort of don't really understand it. So basically, tariffs are a tax imposed on imported goods. And for example, you buy a product from Japan or something and it costs $10. The government decides to put a 10% tax on that product. It then raises the price to $11. Now, the company who makes that product, they're responsible for paying that tax. However, they oftentimes put it onto consumers to pay. So not only does it increase the price of goods for consumers, but they also might not import as much of that good. So it becomes more rare and it increases the price. We've seen that today a lot with people being upset with what's going on. Specifically, the Trump administration has had a bit of a tariff war with a few other countries. And he's doing this because he wants to not only increase the amount of goods that are made and sold in America, but he also wants to kind of get a hold of the economic battle that's happening between countries. And a lot of people don't understand really what's going on, and that's why they're upset.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much. We'll get right into it with Dr. Backstrom. Please stick around after the break.
maniac, so I move it in and we unpack. It's the same as yesterday. Anyway we roll, everything must go away. What do you say? Yeah. You don't know my mind, you don't know my kind. Dark necessities are part of my design. Tell the world that I'm falling from the sky. Dark necessities are part of my design.
Dr. Backstrom is an assistant professor here at Widener University in the Department of Political Science. Dr. Backstrom received his PhD in political science from the University of North Texas and his master's in political science from Villanova University. Dr. Backstrom specializes in the areas of conflict and political violence, state repression, and human rights, alongside of authoritarian political regimes. Dr. Backstrom has won the Lingback Distinguished Teaching Award here at Widener University last year. Dr. Backstrom, thank you for joining us.
Thank you very much, Sean and Lola. I really appreciate the opportunity to come talk to you guys.
Yeah, absolutely. It's our honor and our pleasure. First off, foreign policy is becoming something that's becoming more and more politicized in our nation day to day, changing with every presidential administration, every bureaucratic administration and agency seemingly taking its own policy stances, or administration at least taking their own policy stances on our foreign policy. How has it kind of evolved from our founding in 1776 to what we see today? What is kind of the biggest shift we've seen when it comes to foreign policy, from being, whether it's isolationist or the police of the world like Teddy Roosevelt talks about? What is kind of that overarching I should say, change that we've seen?
I mean, as you'll learn in future classes with me, but I think the biggest change, of course, as you mentioned yourself, was isolationism over to internationalism. Do we want to be involved more and more? If you look back to 1776, even moving all the way up till World War I and World War II, there was a big kind of wave. So when we needed to have it, we had a larger military. We got more involved, and then we went back down. And we kind of focused on what was happening in the Western Hemisphere. And then we went and pushed back to more internationalist, and then back to isolationist. And now for the most part, I would say since the Cold War, we've kind of embraced this kind of cloak of internationalism, that we're going to be involved in everything. I mean, for whatever reason it may be. During the Cold War, it was out of necessity, out of our own priorities and our own national security, and the issue of the Cold War between the United States and the Soviet Union, to post-Cold War, where we're kind of like trying to figure out where are we going in this world. You could see that particularly through President Clinton's administration, where we're kind of tiptoeing, like, do we respond to this event? So we respond to Somalia, we respond to Iraq invading Kuwait, but then we're kind of very apprehensive to jump into Rwanda, and we never do. And neither does anyone else, for that matter. And it's kind of been this way for a long period of time, of like, what do we respond to, what do we don't? And then it's become more and more of an issue. I mean, even your favorite topic, Sean, since I can pick on you a little bit, Libya. Why do we respond to Libya? But we really did very, very little. We did nothing with Egypt during the Arab Spring. And minimal, but in a very minimal presence of American soldiers in Syria, which, went over 10 years compared to Libya, which was a hop, skip, and a jump compared to that. It was a very short period of time, and it was a multilateral response. So I think we've moved from isolationists to internationalists. And we also go and shift from, do we go at it alone, kind of the George W. Bush unilateralism, and shift over to multilateralism. And that has been the big question. You can certainly see that in present day, where typically, and this isn't, like clear cut and dry, you often see with more democratic presidencies, they often try to go and lean more towards multilateralism. Whereas Republicans, it's kind of more a pragmatic approach, where if multilateral will work, we'll go with it. But if unilateral will work and multilateral won't, they'll go and lean more towards that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And that's something that's always evolving, I think,
Absolutely.
In today's landscape, and it's becoming more and more politicized. Take us back, though, to a time before the Cold War, before World War I, where we were this kind of isolationist nation where we just built up when we had to and then reduced. Also, talk us through something that's becoming more and more politicized, is this concept of tariffs. At one point, it was our nation's, Trump is right when he says at one point it was our nation's highest revenue and it was our main source of income. However, that was back before World War I. Talk us through kind of that isolationist mentality. Where did that come from? And what is, besides maybe World War II, the kind of key, or even World War I, the key point in where we go from focusing on tariffs being our main source of income to what they are today, more of a subsidiary? And also talk us through kind of that shifting landscape that we see in foreign policy.
Sure. So isolationism really came from like the founding fathers. Basically Europe, it was what was going on here in Europe. We didn't care. We weren't focused on Asia. Certainly weren't focused on the Middle East. None of those areas were as developed to us. So we focused primarily on Europe. And I don't remember exactly which founding father was credited with this, but they more or less said, okay, have these relationships with Europe, but don't go and get too involved with them. An economic relationship that will go and benefit the United States and its budding prospects is fine. Don't go into where we're going to be responding over there for a military reason. Think about it. At the time, you have colonial powers, and they're not only in engaging in conflict within their colonial areas to go and overtake them, but you're also going and you have conflicts at the higher level between themselves, and not just Britain and France, but those are two of the primary ones that typically went and fought. So Washington and others were like, be very, very hasty about going and jumping into them. Why not go and keep back as an isolationist? So that's where the origins come from it. And I think that so a non-scientific topic, because it's very difficult to go and determine whether or not this is an actual factor, but there's a kind of a sense of a war weariness. I think people are tired. I think people were tired of, twofold. One, I think people were tired of going and sending our sons and daughters over to different conflicts overseas. And they want to go and see, especially, with the long-standing conflict of Afghanistan, I think people were very war weary, and they wanted to go and focus on the United States particularly. In the same vein, though, that did happen some time ago, and I don't think they saw the actual connection to the benefits from it. Now, I think that we've kind of pulled back and try to focus on us and how it goes. I also think that people have this misconception over focusing on other countries when it comes to like foreign aid. We often go and think, oh, we're going and sending so much money to these countries, but we're not focusing on veterans. We're not focusing on other problems in the United States. And politicians play into this, and they kind of lean into the pitch, and they're like, oh, well, they present it as a dichotomous topic, where either you focus on foreign aid and helping out other countries, or you go and focus on veterans and different financial and economic issues in the United States. You can do both. First and foremost, we spend more than the next 10 countries combined on national defense, and that's not a problem. Second, when you go into foreign aid, should not be looked at as like us giving money, the United States giving money to another country. It's a form of diplomacy. And if you go and tap into it ahead of time, and I'm going and providing some kind of foreign aid to certain countries, it's always cheaper. It's a drop in the bucket compared to how much money you would have to go and spend if you have to militarily respond to an issue in the future. So I don't think people typically understand that. When I teach foreign policy, we often go and I try to show videos of people thinking what they really don't understand foreign aid and just how small and minuscule it is compared to everything else we spend. Now, jumping back to your other part regarding tariffs, yeah, there was a certain period of time where that's every country. That's how they went, and they were able to go and provide the income to keep that government rolling. And tapping into Dr. Blemming's discussion, over time, countries went and developed more of a social contract with their people, and now they're almost solely resort to taxes in order to go and fund your government. But in the same regard, I mean, it also comes with economic philosophy of liberalism. The idea of lowest tariffs possible. I mean, after 1945, we have the creation of the WTO, the UN, so on and so forth. But the idea behind the WTO and the preceding 1945 was between 1945 and 1949, you have the creation of the General Agreement on Tariffs and Trade, or GATT, which then turns into the WTO. But the idea behind it was reduce tariffs as small as possible, because basically we went and we amplified, we and the entire world for that matter, it's not just the United States, amplified the effects of the Great Depression because we resorted to creating such high tariffs in order to go and protect our own economies. And it only amplified the effects of the Great Depression 100-fold, basically. And it was unnecessary. It was what they call beggar thy neighbor policies. Now move ahead, the idea with the WTO and GATT was reduce tariffs, encourage more free trade. And it's economic principle. The idea behind liberal economic principle is trade more, protect less. Mm-hmm. And I mean, even some of the things that, even with the IMF and the World Bank, if you want to go and get money, you want to go and for us to invest in your country developmentally, the idea is open your borders to more free trade, reduce tariffs, remove the state from the economy. But it's funny because now we're almost not following our same economic advice by going and increasing tariffs so much, particularly for some countries.
Yeah. So walk us through kind of the current development that we see in our foreign policy. Clearly, World War II and the Cold War marks the key turning point for probably the rest of the world, the reorganization of foreign policy and foreign relations. We have the WTO, we have the UN, NAFTA, we have...
That's not till the 90s.
That's not till the 90s, but at the same time, we still have this massive development of a global reshifting or rechanging or reshaping of international diplomacy and relations. How did we get to the point of where we're at today, where some nations don't engage in diplomacy, they'd rather engage in war? Russia, or we would rather engage in diplomacy, the United States, rather than going to war. Walk us through, how did the globe get so divided yet so cohesive and brought together at the same time?
I think that, one, it's funny because my own personal viewpoints of the UN is that it doesn't work, but it works just as much as we want it to. And it's necessary. I wouldn't say it's a necessary evil. I think that I always tell students to focus on counterfactuals. What if the UN didn't exist? How much war would have gone and been created? How many things that would not happen? I mean, it goes back to that adage of the CIA. You only know us by our failures. And we criticize the UN oftentimes, but the UN is actually, been a benefit. I mean, it's certainly a benefit to smaller countries. It's a necessity to them. And it's, larger countries like the United States, like Russia, like China, it works for them when they want it to work. They'll allow it to work. So in that regard, it's been a benefit where only by going and thinking of how many wars could have broken out without something like that. And I think that's definitely been a benefit. The other benefit, of course, is more economic trade. Are the terms of trade always fair? Absolutely not. And I think that's been what's pushed President Trump with China from his previous administration and part of the current administration, that they're not fair. And we've dealt with that for a long period of time. And does it have to be an issue? I don't think it does. I do think, we want to go and develop. It seems like President Trump wants to go and develop more manufacturing. He wants to go and bring things back to the United States. Now, it's a really difficult task to do. And this is my own 2 cents worth about it. So, if you like it, great. If you don't, you're welcome to it. We want to bring back manufacturing. We want to bring back industry to the United States. We want to make more. We want to make things again. And I completely understand that. You want to create new jobs. But there are certain industries and ventures that you really are not going to be able to bring back. And it's just because, plain and simple, it's cheaper to do it in other areas. And companies are going to go and, MNCs, multinational corporations, are going to basically go and say, you know what? It's cheaper for me to go and create this in a developing country by far, because of materials, because of how much I have to go and pay, because of healthcare, even to the point of environmental issues or I apologize. The amount of hours one can go and work, how much you have to pay for them, so on and so forth. There's no way that you're going to be able to go and change this and offer the same incentives by bringing companies back to the United States. It's just, I think it's a losing battle. I understand it's a politically necessary battle for him. Mm-hmm. That's what he promised, and he wants to stick to his promises. And, most, if not all politicians, regardless of political party, are going to actually go and try to take on the campaign promises. Now, are they going to be successful? It's a whole different, ball of wax, because I don't think they're going to be completely successful. And I think tariffs and trade, maybe in his mind, is a way to go and do it. It's also a way to go and try to keep China, a fair player. Yeah. The devaluation of their currency, they've been doing this for a long period of time. And I do think it goes in masks. They're, depending upon how you go and weigh it out, they're the first or the second largest economy in the world. But we really don't know how much they're actually worth, because they devalue their currency so much, and it does have a backlash to their currency. We want to go and keep them, fair. We want them to stop dumping cheap goods on our doorstep. It benefits us. But in the same regard, the trade war itself, the tariff war, the people it ends up hurting, to be honest with you, is us. It's interesting, too. I was listening to NPR on my drive in this morning, and they were talking with a research firm in Australia, and I can't remember off the top of my head what the name of it was, but they were talking about their relationship. So, they have a very close tie with the United States, Australia, but they also had to go and balance out their biggest, rival, their biggest neighbor is China. And the gentleman actually said, they only have an increase of 10% tariffs from the United States, because we've basically gone and increased tariffs on everyone. To Australia, because they're a close strategic partner, it's only 10%. And we're like, okay, well, it's not a big deal. Well, our increase in tariffs on China impacts them. And it's almost like, with globalization, with this economic interdependency that we've created throughout the world, and well before President Trump's time in office, back to the 1990s, we have much more economic interdependency that, basically, if you have a sniffle in one country, you're going to have a cold in the other, and the fact that we have increased tariffs on China has an impact on Australia. So it has an impact on everyone else. And in the end, I feel like It's not going to affect politicians as much, but it does go and impact other countries, and even more so, it impacts us. I'll be honest, I'm not a big advocate of trying to go and rule by tariffs. I don't think it's the best policy. And I think hopefully for President Trump, I want the best for the United States. Hopefully it works out, and hopefully he sees kind of maybe this isn't the best road to go down, but I do think it's going to go and create more problems than it's going to solve.
Coming up, Dr. Backstrom is going to talk to us about the modern evolution of American foreign policy from the 1990s until today. Stay tuned.
As a little boy, my mama told me, better keep my politics to me. Never really bought the things they sold me, but now I'm starting to believe. Seeing everybody going crazy, every time they go and disagree. This animosity has got me thinking we could use some harmony. Hey, people hating, you're not listening to what I'm saying. I'm sick of waiting, all this
So, talk to us kind of about the development from Bill Clinton in the 1990s of his kind of establishing NAFTA and the interdependency, at least between countries economically. Talk to us of the evolution from that to kind of now, George Bush having his hand in everything in the Middle East, and Obama trying to kind of figure out how to get out of it while also still kind of remaining the kind of police at the same time, and Biden eventually pulling out and Trump trying to pull out too. Like, explain to us like the kind of the academic view of the shifts we've seen from the 90s of the economic interdependency promotion to the policing of the world to kind of the how do we get out of this and try to establish ourselves as both the police of the world while also maintaining this kind of relationship and focus on ourselves here at home.
I mean, it's a really difficult path to go down, but we've actually kind of made it simpler. And it really comes through, and it's going to sound odd, but soft power. Mm-hmm. We created the rules. So even going back further than the 1990s, 1945, 1949, you have the creation of, Bretton. You have in Bretton Woods the meetings of the minds of the winning leaders, and you, like we mentioned, you have the creation of the UN system, the GATT, and the IMF, World Bank, all necessary developments. But just the same, we're creating the rules for the other countries to go and follow. And other countries really went, and it's kind of, it's based on attraction. And they're seeing that there's going to be some kind of benefits. And that's why other countries kind of fell in line. You have the origins really of this economic interdependency then. You're essentially going and saying, we can't go and create these massively high tariffs. So you're creating this economic interdependency, and it just goes and is continued in the 1990s. And while Bill Clinton really went and pushed it through, NAFTA was really pushed through by Bush, mm-hmm. Papa Bush, George H.W. Bush. So it's interesting that, it's really not on this political party divide or political ideology that they both really saw the benefits through it. And I mean, let's be honest here. Yeah, well, it definitely certainly went and increased economic interdependency. There was no doubt about it. There was a loss of jobs. And it was also at a period of time where you also have a loss of jobs. Like I've talked to you both about this in classes. My family, I grew up in Pittsburgh. There was a big steel town, and there was multiple steel mills. And then all of a sudden it starts dwindling. And there were literally 2 steel mills. And thankfully my stepfather worked at one of them. He worked there for 33 years. It didn't close down. And now I think it since has closed down. But all of those steel mills went to Eastern Europe. They went to former Soviet countries because it was cheaper for them to go and do it. Let someone else go and make it. The United States takes on a very different approach to what we were creating. We were a post-industrial nation. We were kind of more of a service-based economy. And it forced countries to go and change. I mean, it's frustrating. Believe me, I understand, because people are... When I got out of the military, I won't say exactly the year, but when I got out of the military, my stepdad said, Jeremy, I can't even get you a job at the steel mill. This used to be the idea that if your dad or your grandfather and your uncles, they all went and worked in the steel mill, you did too. Even getting out of the military, go right to it. And he's like, I can't get you a job there. And I didn't really want one there either. I wanted to go and tackle something else. I just didn't know at the time. But that was lost. And people were forced, so Pittsburgh goes and, invests in the medical field and invests in education and transforms itself into something entirely different. Philadelphia had to do somewhat of the same thing, but for different aspects of the economy. Now I've lost my train of thought entirely, but it's forced society to go and change. And I understand that people have a lot of frustration with the development of NAFTA, and it did impact the United States in a negative way. But it also went and benefited us in a positive way. It's not, I would say, the benefits haven't been dispersed equally by any means. You have to kind of take that onus on yourself of reinventing or investing in your education, to find out ways to not only benefit yourself, but also to go and really financially survive. Now moving forward, we've, changed the relationship of NAFTA very, very slightly under President Trump. I mean, to be honest, there are a couple subtle changes to USMCA.
Something like that.
It's almost basically the same thing, but just with a new name. There were a couple like changes to the numbers, but it wasn't anything dramatically changing. But over time, I mean, the idea is that where do we go from here? I wouldn't say that anyone else has really taken on this idea of the tariff war, and it kind of goes to show. I mean, like the first, think about it. With President Trump's first administration, it was the big target was not everyone. The big target was China, and how do you go and balance the second or first, depending upon which, where you're looking at the numbers, the second or first largest economy, with, a large military, but nevertheless, are they really at the same level as others? They certainly have nuclear weapons, so we have to take them seriously, and a large number of conventional weapons. But they're also one of our, if not the largest trading partner. They are our largest trading partner. And they also own 30% of our debt. So it's a very contentious relationship. It's almost akin to this idea of one China policy and how to go and deal with Taiwan. And we're dedicated to go and helping out Taiwan. But in the same regard, how do we go and balance both of those? We don't want to go and tick off the Chinese government, but we also want to go and continue to go and protect Taiwan. It's a very, very difficult pathway. And I think that's really what's going to go and move forward. I do hope that, as I mentioned before, President Trump really kind of wisens up to it and kind of maybe not go and get rid of the increase in tariffs completely, but be more focused. I feel like this just kind of brazen, let's throw tariffs on everyone to varying levels. Like I think Brazil is up to like 50% tariffs. That's insane. I mean, this is a trading partner in our Western Hemisphere. They're not, they're not a rival. I wouldn't say, I mean, they don't have the same relationship we have as other countries, but just the same. How do we go about this?
Yeah, that's a really great question, and hopefully we'll see it play out a little better, because I don't think there are firm foreign policy stances when it comes to the economic policy. Let's talk about our relational diplomacy that we see in international relations today, specifically post-Cold War, our relationship with Russia and the current situation with Russia and Ukraine. And this episode was supposed to take place last week, and that's scheduling on me. But we just saw a historic peace agreement. Hopefully it will stand between Hamas and Israel. Kind of talk to us about how those relationships have evolved over time, specifically Israel post-World War II and Russia post-Cold War.
So Russia, I feel like it's interesting. I was talking with my mother-in-law this morning about it. I was driving her to the airport, and neither one of us can really go and understand why is the United States so afraid of Putin? I don't get it. I know he has nuclear weapons. I know that they've been a rival. There's a very small window of Boris Yeltsin and the latter years of Gorbachev where they weren't as much of a rival, or they weren't as difficult of a rival as they are now. But why are we so afraid of him? Why are we not working like adamantly to go? It really, again, it doesn't matter whether it's a Republican administration or a Democrat administration. They both seem so fearful of him. And it's interesting, though. I mean, yes, they have access. I mean, part of it could be their access to natural resources. Western Europe has to go and worry about them, because they have access, they have control over natural gas, they have control of oil, and it does have a big impact on them. So maybe that's the reason why we're so apprehensive with Putin. But why aren't we trying to go and change something? I mean, it's not just what's happening. What happens in Ukraine is going to impact the rest of the world. I'm not saying that, we need to start an all-out war against him, and I don't think that continuing to just throw $60 billion at Ukraine is the answer either, but there needs to be some kind of happy medium of trying to go and change it. I do think that having a more active role, in the diplomacy between the two leaders is really, really important. But in the same regard, I mean, does anyone think that Putin's actually going to go and live up to any of this? I don't think he will. So I don't know where that's going, and I apologize. I'm not trying to dance around that question, but I don't think any of us really know.
No, yeah, and that's kind of the thing with Putin, is he seemingly over the years has become more and more unpredictable, trying to probably, it looks like, at least from the Western perspective, that he's trying to restore kind of the Russia as this USSR great big world power, and they're not necessarily, yes, they have their natural resources and nuclear weapons, but
They
what
can't even
is
feed
it?
their own people. I mean, like
Exactly.
they've always had the same problem, is they have too large of a population, and while they have access to natural resources, are the gains from having these natural resources dispersed across the board, and they're not. Let's be honest here, they're not. So we can't even take care of their own people. But I mean, I honestly don't know the answer to go and taking that on, other than the removal of a leader, which I'm not going to go and stand out here
Not
and say
advocate for it.
actively, push for it. Regarding the other element of your question, with Israel and Hamas, I think it's great that they put together this 20-point agenda for agreement for peace. The problem is right now, and I mean, no, again, fingers crossed that something goes and develops. They haven't disarmed. Right now they're targeting Palestinian civilians. What we're probably going to see is a redevelopment of a civil war between Palestinians. They had this previously between Hamas and the Palestinian Authority / Fatah. Fatah was Yasser Arafat's group under the Palestinian Liberation Organization long time ago. And while they're not the primary leader anymore, but it seems like it's becoming the possibility of the development of a civil war between the Palestinian Authority and Hamas, which is going to inevitably impact Israel, and it's going to go and lead it right back. So yes, they signed. I think the whole focus was on hostages, and I think that's really, really important. We certainly need it. It's 2 years, needed to go and get hostages back. And that's a positive development. I mean, we don't have to go and look at the entire agreement as positive or negative, take certain points of it. Huge positive development to go and get Hamas. I mean, they've had agreements in the past with Israel. I mean, granted, like their original charter was basically calling for the destruction of Israel, and they would never recognize them, never go and have any kind of negotiations with them whatsoever. Look at it. It's 2025 and they're actually negotiating with them. Not actually face to face, but hey, through Qatar and through the United States and through other countries, they've actually gone and developed that. In the same regard, we need to go and look at the reality of the situation. Has any of this actually happened? They've actually so there's an idea of Israel has been one interesting country in the sense of leadership decapitation. It's in 2017 or the 2016 election between Hillary Clinton and Donald Trump. There was a question posed about how are you going to take on the issue of terrorism? And Hillary Clinton said leadership decapitation. Donald Trump said he was kind of fumbling around, but more or less he basically continued on with what Barack Obama went in his approach, and it worked. Leadership decapitation has only worked in one country, and that's Israel, because it's such a small size of a country. They've effectively taken out almost all of Hamas's leadership. So that's a positive thing, and the idea is that you're going to put their feet to the fire, and you take out the leaders, and you're going to take out everyone. The problem is that now you usually get more hardliners, and you don't know who you're dealing with.
Coming up after the break, Dr. Backstrom will go more in depth about what happens to movements after we see the creation of hardliners and so much more. Stay tuned after the break.
Old man sitting by the side of the road with the lorries rolling by. A blue moon sinking from the weight of the load, and the buildings scrape the sky. A cold wind ripping out the It's only castles burning. Find someone who's turning, and you will come around. Don't let it bring you down. It's only castles burning. Find someone who's turning, and you will come around.
So when we create these hardliners, what do we typically see out of movements? Do they get stronger? Do they get weaker? Do they want to come to the table and talk? Would they rather continue the fight till they have all-out victory, total, complete victory? What do we see when this leadership decapitation happens?
It varies, to be honest with you. I mean, we don't know what we're going to get. The fact that, yeah, I mean, Hamas is a horrible organization. There's no two ways about it. They're a terrorist organization. They fit the bill. It's not just, looking at it from a U.S.-centric view. I mean, because the term terrorism is political in nature. So it varies based upon the country. But just the same, they check all the boxes of what is a terrorist group. Mm-hmm. And they've taken out most of the leadership, and the leadership that's been there for a long time. I mean, this is an organization that was created in the 1980s. And the interesting thing, too, when they were created, Israel was sort of like, not that they were accepting of them, that they wanted Hamas to be created, but they were like, okay, the enemy of my enemy is my friend. So at this point, my big enemy is the PLO. It's Yasser Arafat. It's Fatah. Basically ABC alphabet soup of organizations who were going and engaging in violence against them. The creation of Hamas is kind of an offset, and they could have gone and destroyed it way back then. And by no means am I blaming Israel at all. But it's interesting that they've actually been able to go and withstand all this time, and really set themselves up. But we don't know what's going to come out of it. And I wish I could give you a better answer, Sean. I typically, though, when you go and take out leaders, you normally, and I'm not trying to take the agency out of people's minds, but oftentimes what you do is you almost radicalize the potential future people, because now you've seen that whatever the government that is targeting them, if they have the audacity and they have the willingness and capacity to take out the leaderships that have been around for a while, what do you do to survive? And it almost radicalizes them. And sometimes we often go, I myself just said that we usually get more hardliners, but these may be people who knows where they are at now, but now they're more radicalized because they've just seen what happened to their brethren that were leaders before then.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and another, I think, a key important part to talk about is one of the last points on this 20-point peace plan is the pathway for a Palestinian statehood recognition by the United States, at least. One of very few first world countries that has not done so. I mean, the UK, France, I think Germany's done it and followed in the steps. I believe even Canada. You can correct me if I'm wrong. I believe Canada now recognizes a Palestinian state. Why is it because the United States is this, as Bibi Netanyahu stated on Friday or Thursday of last week, that Donald Trump is the greatest friend that Israel's ever had in the White House? I mean, why is it that the United States isn't taking why didn't we take the first step to recognize Palestine? I mean, we've seen the atrocities that the IDF has been committing in the West Bank, in Gaza, creating and completing it seems like a ethnic cleansing of Gaza and the Palestinian state. Why has the United States kind of sat back and sat idle and been, I'll say it, complicit in this atrocity that we've seen come out of the IDF and Bibi's cabinet and his leadership of Israel?
It's a really difficult question, and it has been a difficult question for politicians. Again, Republican, Democrat alike. First and foremost, the decision to go and recognize a Palestinian state would be almost political disaster if it's part of the 20-point plan, and Israel goes and signs onto it, which that in itself is even a whole other thing. Israel is not Benjamin Netanyahu.
Mm-hmm.
Israel is comprised of a whole vast number of people. And I mean, if you look at their coalition politics, they're all over the spectrum in the sense of, far right, far left, more religious. Israeli, I mean, this is something I would love to go and develop as a class myself at some point, but Israeli politics is so interesting. And we often go and look at it as like, in kind of almost a dichotomous manner. Is it pro-Israel? Is it anti-Israel? And we need to go and understand the complexities of what's going on with that. For us to go and say, without Israel's blessing, would be political disaster for any politician to go and try to recognize Palestinian statehood. There's a reason why. Well, I mean, for instance, Barack Obama, when he was a state senator, did not go, like, he actually mentioned a couple times where, the idea of being a little bit more critical of Israel. I don't think he was completely a proponent of Palestinian statehood, but he did say something to the effect of like, well, we need to kind of look out for the Palestinian people. Now, jump ahead, when he goes on the campaign trail for being president, he fully goes and puts on the lapel of the American flag and the Israeli flag, and and it's Republican, Democrat alike. So I think that's why they really went forward with it, that it would just be disaster. And we have a very special relationship with Israel. And I think that would be really the kind of straw that broke the camel's back. And there's even if Netanyahu jumps on it and says, all right, I'll agree with it, even the members of his own coalition don't want Palestinian statehood. And even more than that, if the United States is going to go down that road and actually recognize Palestinian statehood, it's one thing to go and recognize Palestinian statehood. It's another thing to go and have a viable state. Mm-hmm. And they don't have it right now. And I don't think they're going to have it in the foreseeable future. It's going to take a lot, and it's going to take a lot of things that the United States is going to have to pump more money into it. Israel's going to probably that's what makes things really, really difficult of a one state and a two state solution. A one state solution, Israel really doesn't want, some Palestinians don't want. A two state solution goes and allows for both, but think about, is there a functional independent economy in the West Bank or the Gaza Strip that does not involve Israel? It doesn't happen. I mean, even like, for instance, water resources. The Jordan River is shared by Israel and the West Bank. So that in itself just goes and therein lies the complexity of this entire relationship. Yes, you can go and say, oh, this is going to lead to statehood, but it's almost like one of those things where this is something that I want to go and get the blessing of the Palestinian people, and I want people to go and sign on to it. But do I actually visualize this actually happening in the next 10 to 20 years? I don't. I really don't.
Yeah. All right. So lastly, that's a lot. There's a lot to break down from that, and I think that in itself has become a politicized issue. And unfortunately, the cost of innocent lives are politicized nowadays. When we look at why American politics, specifically in the realm of foreign policy, has become so politicized, unfortunately our foreign policy failures. Jimmy Carter and the Iranian hostage crisis. You have Bush and Iraq and just his entire response to 9/11. You have Obama and his response to Libya and the Arab Spring. You have Joe Biden and the botched withdrawal in Afghanistan and Trump's economic policies that aren't working with China. Where is kind of, in all of this politicized, where is kind of the hope that maybe when we start to realize that we've made our mistakes and we acknowledge them and we don't just brush them off and use them as political weapons? For example, Trump brings up oftentimes the failures of the botched withdrawal in Afghanistan. He brings up Obama's foreign policy failures. You'll see Democrats bring up, the Iranian hostage crisis, acknowledging it was a mistake, but also blaming, Bush for Iraq, which I think the American public now post Iraq understands that we were lied to.
I mean, even President Trump has gone out and said it.
Yeah, and our failures in Vietnam, when and where do you ever expect the line to be drawn and say, okay, we've made these failures, let's stop politicizing it, let's actually come together and make actual policy to fix it and to try to tone down the temperature? Because I feel like a lot of where we see division isn't necessarily within just domestic policy. It's also very heavily enwrapped in foreign policy as well.
I think that question is actually probably better served by Dr. Leckrone, because I think it's really, I think what you're asking, I know what you're asking, but I think the answer to what you're asking really lies within the political parties themselves. Mm-hmm. And stop taking the, political low-hanging fruit. Like, tell me a person that's going to go and sit there and, on November 5th or whatever date the next election is, next year in 2026 is going to say, you know what? I'm not going to vote for the Democrats because Joe Biden's botched Afghanistan withdrawal. Was it, as a veteran, I was like, oh my God, I cannot believe that they would do something this bad. Mm-hmm. Did we need to get out of Afghanistan? Absolutely. We also, I am an equal opportunity criticizer. You've heard me say that. I thought that Trump's insistence that we need to bring the Taliban to the negotiating table was absolutely correct. We needed to. They become a veto player. It's simply put, all we're doing is going kind of like saying, oh, I don't see the bad guy. I don't see the bad guy because I'm not going to bring him to the table. You have to. Like, they're the most powerful group in Afghanistan at that time. So I applaud him on that. In the same regard, the exit strategy, the way we got out of there was just terrible. It happened under Biden's watch, so typically he's the one that's going to go and hold it. I don't know who the ins and outs of it. And I think it's just, we need to get past the political low-hanging fruit and really go and develop things. Yes, I fully expect it, but in the same regard, when it comes to the next election day, nobody votes because of foreign policy. But, should it not, does it mean foreign policy doesn't matter? No. Put myself out of a job. Of course it matters. It makes a huge ordeal. It makes whether or not we're going to have a country, and what's the status of our country along with the world. But it's not that big of a deal. It's going and, it's a way to go and rouse up your supporters. Mm-hmm. And both sides do it. And it's ridiculous. At the end of the day, what have you done for me lately with the economy? What have you done for me lately with domestic politics? That's why people vote. So we need to grow up, get past all this stuff. Tell me what you're going to go and do to benefit my country, to benefit the world for that matter, since we're talking about foreign policy, and to benefit the United States stance in the world and making it a better place. If we go and pursue that way, or do we want to go and focus isolationists? In the same regard, what's better for us? Me personally, I'm much more of an internationalist, so I think it's we need to go and think about what we're doing to the rest of the world. So,
gotcha. And then last question, really quickly, I ask this to everybody: what is happening? What's going on? And how do we fix it?
We need to go and this is just my own personal perspective. I think we need to become more involved. Not so much of being world policemen. We need to talk with other countries and think about the ramifications for them just as well as us. Mm-hmm. There's too many problems in the world. Go back to Gorbachev. One of the things that he contributed was that the world is faced with transnational problems. We need to have a transnational answer. And this has been repeated by multiple other leaders. We need to go and talk to other countries. Mm-hmm. And it's not just about environments and public health and terrorism. All these things have ramifications to other countries. We need to talk with them because we can't resolve everything just by ourselves. And even if we can go and resolve it to our liking, it's going to come back and bite us in a word that I'm not allowed to use on this, so I won't. We need to go and fix these problems, and we cannot do it ourselves. Mm-hmm. And if the way we want to get it done, it doesn't go in parallel with what other countries want to do, then maybe we need to modify ours a little bit. Maybe we can still pursue the national interest of the United States and modify it ever so slightly to go and kind of coincide with what's best for the rest of the world.
All right. Well, Dr. Backstrom, thank you so much for joining us. We really appreciate it.
Thank you so much, Sean and Lola. I really appreciate you guys.
Of course. And we want to thank you, the listeners, for giving us some time out of your weekend, especially on a holiday weekend. Seeing that it was Thanksgiving, unfortunately, my producer Lola could not join us this evening. However, Ryan is in studio. And I just want to ask something. Ryan, what are you thankful for this Thanksgiving?
Sean, I think this Thanksgiving, I'm most thankful for the food that I'm about to eat and that I'm going to eat and that I will continue to eat because I have so many leftovers. And I'm also just thankful for family, obviously, and for my friends and for everything the school has given me and for the show as well and being here with the show. It's wonderful to work with Sean and Lola, and I'm very happy to produce this. And what are you thankful for, Sean?
Well, thanks, Ryan. I appreciate it. Thank you for asking me. I'm especially thankful for my family and for the time I get to spend with them and my friends. Certainly thankful for my brothers at ATO. Shout out. I do have to give them a shout out. But also this show and our listeners. This is an incredible platform, and we look forward to growing this here in the last weeks of the semester and also next semester. We have some really big projects coming up, and I'm really excited to share those with our listeners. So thank you to Ryan and to Lola, as always, our co-producers on the show, and I'm thankful for all of you listeners. So have an amazing rest of your Thanksgiving weekend and your Thanksgiving break. We will see you in class on Monday.